Welcome to Out There. I'm Papa Joey Stay.
And I'm Uncle Tim Rice.
In this series, we explore the unexplained
and the paranormal.
While I'm somewhat of a skeptic,
I'm a full-on believer.
Together, we take a deep dive into all things that could be considered out there.
We discuss everything paranormal, from ghosts and UFOs to cryptids and more.
Join us as we unravel the mysteries behind the stories
and decide for ourselves
if there is something more out there.
Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to Out There with our lunchtime. We have a special guest today. This is Chris. He's with Bald and Bonkers and Graveyard. And tell them all you're on several, aren't you?
I'm on multiple locations. I'm on Ghost Squad Scotland, obviously, but I do the tarot readings. If anybody's watching on my channel, guys, I'm not doing tarot readings until tomorrow because I'll get them coming in. Because when I do my stuff, I get people coming in asking for tarot readings. I also do my my UFO show that I had you guys on. I've also got I've got multiple places that I go to. But there's some of my fellow mods in the chat right now.
There you go.
But I'm really, really, really looking forward to this. I've been really excited about this, actually, talking about this subject, because it's something that I'm kind of interested in,
Oh yeah, we were talking about this before. The idea came to me about 2 months ago when Joey said, "Hey, I'm going to be headed back to Arizona, so maybe you and Chris want to do a show." And I'm like, "Oh man, that gives me a perfect idea, man. Graveyards." And we were talking about, I was thinking, because I've been all over Europe, and I was thinking, what we should do? We should do a show on graveyards, comparing, Europe and the rest of the world to American graveyards. Mm-hmm. And like ours go back to like 1638, I believe, is when they're like recorded, like the first graveyard, and that's in like Duxbury, Massachusetts. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, what about Europe? And I started searching for old graveyards in Europe, and I guess the one in Germany is 8,500 years old. And I'm like, oh my God, let's do that. Let's talk about graveyards then and graveyards now. So I thought, who better to have than Chris on? So thanks for joining us, man.
You're very, very welcome. I live next to an old graveyard. I'm lucky. I stay in kind of rural Scotland. I've got a lot of locations kind of round about. I've been to a lot of graveyards, and the last graveyards. See, you also get cemeteries and graveyards. Is it the same for you in the United States, or do you just call them cemeteries?
Well, I looked up the difference between cemeteries and graveyards, and it really didn't. I think a graveyard is something without a church on it, and a cemetery doesn't have a church on it.
Yeah, a cemetery doesn't have a church, and a graveyard has a church.
Right.
So that's the only difference. But I've been to some really interesting graveyards, and I've been to some really interesting cemeteries. I'm lucky. The one in my village is from 1193.
Wow, that's just that blows my mind.
I've got photos there that we'll show after, but I will say this: I tried to do a video, and it was very weird. And I don't know if Papa Joe, I forgot to tell you before the live, but I tried to upload the video in here, and it would not upload.
Wow!
And
was it too big, or it was just?
No, it was in 1 minute segments, and it was an MP4, and I could not upload it. I just tried and tried and tried, and I thought, what's going on here? So I went onto my thing. It should have uploaded, but I just couldn't do it. So then I went back yesterday, and I took photos, because I've actually got pictures of stone coffins, caskets made out of solid stone. Did you see the pictures?
Oh yeah. We'll be sharing some of those here in a minute. Yeah,
I'm you guys in the chat,
looking at all the comments. You can put some of those up there, Chris, if you want. Yeah. So I thought that would be an interesting show, and he sent me some pictures of a graveyard just right down from his house. And now think about it. This is Scotland, so this isn't even the oldest part. But
there's parts of Scotland's older.
Yeah. but I think Germany and some other places are like go back. I mean, all right, so they say they go back 9,000 years, and there are some scholars say that burials go back to 100,000 years, but there's no way of pinpointing a time. And they used to call them green burials back in the day, and then not long after that they started cremating them. But yeah, we were looking like, so America doesn't have like old graveyard. I mean, even though the Native Indians were here, but they used to burn their bodies and send them their spirits back up to the sky. So there's not a whole lot of records of burials in the United States before, we came over and settled it. But it's just amazing to see these cemeteries in Europe and Scotland and Germany and even Austria. There's some really, really cool ones in Vienna. But they're elaborate, and they were made to last forever. We've got cemeteries here that you can't even see the stones, or the things have fallen apart, and they're not that old. But over there, man, they were made to last forever.
Oh, good God. There was actually, I think there's one picture there that I've got, I'll show you in a wee while, but it's a gravestone, and it's from, I think it's 1543, and it's that worn, you can't make out the names. It's from 15. But that's the thing that's interested me about America, because I've noticed in Scotland, I don't know about England, but I do know in Scotland, I've been round a lot of graveyards, as I say, and there's a very few private graveyards, cemeteries. And Scotland.
Private?
I mean, there's maybe a private, and that's what I noticed about America. Like for instance, if you own your own land next to a farm, you've got like, what you call it, your own kind of like cemetery kind of thing,
Right.
But here next to me there is one. A lot of people don't know it's there. A lot of people, I was telling someone the other day, and they were amazed. But it's there. It's a private. It was owned by a big farming community family, but that's not been used. I think the last burial there was 100 years ago. But that in Scotland, there must be only about maybe 20 or 30 little private things. But in America, yous have got them nearly everywhere, haven't you? I mean, that's what I find fascinating.
We've got graveyards here that we have completely forgotten. Completely. I was out in not far from Mount Lemmon, between Tucson and the Chiricahua mountains, where Geronimo, I guess, all that happened. And we were taking the back roads, and we were dirt roading, off-roading. This is back in the 80s when it really wasn't built up too much. And we stopped and let our dogs out for a break, and we just started walking over to the side and came across a cemetery. And it had, most of the graves were like Union soldiers, and a lot of just suicide and killed, no name. And I mean, it's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's completely just grown over, and there's no gates, there's no nothing to show that it's a graveyard. We've just abandoned them.
You've just remembered me something there. There's the local town near me is 12 miles away. It's Lanark, right? Everybody's seen the film Braveheart, let's face it. All them. You know in the bit where he says we're 6 miles from, we're 12 miles from Lanark in Braveheart. Right. That's here. That's what I.
Oh wow, cool.
Right? When he says that, right? Lanark is quite a big town. It's actually got a big graveyard. It's actually got quite a big graveyard. And you've just remembered me something. I was in there filming. I was walking through it, and I found a grave. And I looked down at it, and it was a wee plaque, and it was an ironclad ship that was on it. I was like, "What's this?" So I read it in the Civil War, in the Confederacy. There was Scots went over to fight in the Confederate War, right? They were killed in this ironclad that was sunk in the Mississippi. They couldn't bring the body back, obviously, but they put a stone for the family.
Just to mark it.
Son was killed. Yeah. And it gave you the name, I'll need to look it out actually. It gave you the name of the ironclad ship and how it sunk. But it just shows you how we're still connected, even then.
Yeah. Yeah, so half of our people are just buried, like on a wagon trail, because as they were going out west, they just buried them when they died, and there's no markers, and there's millions of people
Yeah,
buried out
I've heard
all
that.
over America that didn't get a chance to get in a graveyard or cemetery. So that's really why we don't have anything. I mean, I can't imagine how many cemeteries there'd be if we took all the people that died and put them in
A
a.
lot.
It'd be cover the plains.
It's God. I mean, the United States. I mean, what's the population of the United States? What, 76 million, something like that. Round about 76 million.
I don't know, whatever it is, plus 11 million the last year.
I
But
mean, it's ridiculous the size of the United States compared to Scotland. I mean, there's states in the United States
yes,
that are 5 times the size of Scotland and Britain
yes,
combined. So, yeah, I mean, Scotland's older, right? Scotland, yeah, we know Scotland's older and stuff. Like, so is Ireland. Ireland, a lot of people don't know this, but Ireland's actually a lot older than Scotland. There's a lot of older graves in Ireland. Ireland's beautiful for its castles and stuff like that. What's that? I'm just bringing up. Trying to bring everybody's what do you call it? People's chatting here. I live in San Diego, Australia. Oh.
in San Diego.
Yep, it's San Diego, and there you go. I'll bring it up for you.
Wow.
And there you go. There you go. But do you want me to bring some of your pictures up that you put on?
Yeah, let's look at some pictures. All right, let's put up some U.S. pictures first to get an idea.
Yeah.
We got a few of them. We don't need a lot of them because they're all basically the same. There's really nothing older than most of ours around here are in the 1800s, and this is a typical. This is in New Mexico, and it's just a typical. This is what you see everywhere you go in America. This is what you see. And compared to the ones in Europe, it's really amazing. Go to the next one. Yeah, so see, we have had sons, and some of them are pretty pretty big and extensive. I mean, compared to
Yeah. I'll bring this one up, whatever it is.
This is Concordia in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So this is your typical graveyard you find everywhere in America.
Yeah. I've always noticed about, right, with American graves, and this is what I have noticed, like mostly movies and stuff like that, your graveyards are so pristine, but they're so, what's the word I'm looking for here? They're so accurate. What I mean is the stones just run a direct line.
Oh, you're all right. They're all in alignment.
Yeah, they're all in alignment. Whereas you get into a Scottish grave, our modern graveyards, right? Our modern graveyards are exactly the same as you, just about exactly the same, right?
But back then they didn't. It was so everywhere. Because there were so many, and they didn't have a lot of room, so it was all about space. So they just, even though they had plenty of room, they spaced them out here, whereas there they just had to dig the closest hole to the next grave. So that's where the tomb went up. They're just compacted.
I'm just looking up something really quick. There was I looked, actually, I got you some photos, and it's actually in London.
Okay.
And it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting because you've got the cemeteries in London, and then you've got the graves in London. And this is, I've noticed that in the United States, you do have quite a lot of tombs also.
Right.
Because obviously you're rich and powerful, and a lot of them didn't believe about being buried or cremated. Cremation, when was cremation brought in actually in Europe and the United States?
See, in let's see here. I had it.
Just reading the chat there.
It was the early 1700s when they started cremating. So in the mid 1600s, it was all burials, and then in the early 1700s, they started cremation and embalming. That's when they started the procedures of embalming. So they didn't have the technology until then.
Because I've always wondered that, because I ken in the UK it wasn't until around about the same time for cremations, because it's quite a popular thing now. Because in the UK they've brought out a thing now. If you have a grave that's older than 75 years, it can be dug up.
Yeah,
and that's what they're starting to do now. And that's what they've noticed in London. It's actually started to happen, but because obviously cities, graveyards, and cemeteries are filling up and filling up and filling up.
Yes.
They're running out of room to put them. Now, wait, I'll show you this pictures here. This is London. This is in the central of London. You'll like this. What do you think of this?
Yeah, those were basically. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the first you hear about tombs. I mean, they used to put people in tombs back in, like in biblical time, or when Jesus was placed in a tomb. And again, there were other people placed in tombs, but they really didn't. They didn't take off until, I guess, they hit Europe, and then they started making these everywhere. But they ran out of space.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. The Highgate Cemetery is one of the most haunted places in the world. Actually,
Wow.
There's like ghost tours run through there. Obviously, I was actually watching a program last night, because you got me onto this. You got me addicted to the kind of like graveyards after me seeing all those ones that you'd put in. See is it New Orleans? New Orleans graveyards.
Yes.
Wow.
So they flooded. A lot of them came up, and they had to rebury them. And that's just I can't even imagine. Do you know that in some of our so we don't have a whole lot of natural lakes here. A lot of our lakes are man-made, and they have actually dammed up and flooded areas with graveyards that are underwater to this day in all these reservoirs all over America. And that's kind of sad too.
I've seen it like on TV where there's been floods in the United States, and because a lot of the caskets, because we call them coffins here, but you call them caskets.
Oh, they're coffins.
They pop up like corks. They pop up literally like corks because they're sealed.
Right.
And
completely sealed.
You'll see them floating down the river.
So they've started putting them in concrete casings. So my grandparents last time, I buried anyone, they put them in these concrete casings so they don't, if anything were to happen and they flooded, they wouldn't float up anymore. But oh man, in New Orleans, they had coffins and caskets everywhere.
I remember that.
That was so sad.
I remember that during, yeah.
And you know what? You say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's with New Orleans, I think it's beautiful the way that they've built their tombs. Because you've got I can't remember what part of New Orleans it is, but it's meant to be like haunted or something like that. I've seen the ghost tours, and it's all these white buildings, and it's all like mausoleums. But I think that they did that because of the flooding. Did they know?
Yes.
To stop But it's obviously, if you can't afford that, you're in a casket which is going to pop up like you have to rebury it again, don't you?
And you were mentioning haunted cemeteries. Joey and our crew have done several investigations in cemeteries and graveyards. And there was a very, very, very small graveyard right down the street from us. And I guess it's the oldest graveyard in the Collin County area of North Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And it dates back to early 1800s. And there's only about 30 grave sites there, and some of the stones have been, after they've fallen down, nobody really put them up. They stacked them like in a corner. So they're buried there, and their tombs are just scattered everywhere. And it's like, I'm telling you, this thing is like the size of my house. The property it's very, very small. But talk about haunted. Oh man, we got more action there than we've gotten in a lot of big cemeteries. So I've yet to be to a cemetery that we didn't get lots of response and lots of reaction and people talking.
I mean, I've always been strange. See, like modern cemeteries and stuff like that. I mean, I've went in, I've tried the ghost hunting in the modern cemeteries, and I've never really experienced then. Weird.
Really?
But what I have, I've never, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way I'm. Maybe the spirits like, oh, there's Chris. Because I've got a lot of family in the cemetery just a half a mile up the road from it. That's where most of my family are. And I got there and I tidy the place. I pick up the rubbish and I make sure the weeds and stuff like that. Maybe every time I got up there, when I'd go out to try stuff, I'd like, oh, it's just Chris. It's just up here. Like, maybe that's what they're like. I don't know. But when you go to like older graveyards, especially the one down the road from me, that place is creepy at night.
Yes, it
really
is.
Creepy at night. It's just weird. It's very difficult for me to try and explain to like people watching this. Well, old graveyards that are like 1,000. That one down there's nearly 1,000 years old. Have a different feel. Now, the graveyard that's down the road from me, it was not always a church. Okay. So it was, before it was a church, there was a cemetery there, right? But across the road from it, there was a jail, right?
Right.
And that was a courthouse.
So they would hang him and bury him right there.
They hang them and bury them right there. They would march them across the road, which is like 25 yards, and then march them in there. You're guilty. You'll be hung. Hung them and bury them straight away.
Yeah, those people weren't ready to go, so they're probably very restless still.
Yes. And then
and angry.
Had a great idea. Oh, let's have a great idea. Let's make it into a lovely little chapel. So they built a chapel and they put a clock tower in. Now that clock tower is the oldest clock tower in Scotland. Mary Queen of Scots donated that. And it was actually at the side of the clock tower, it's got the Knights Templar crest. And I didn't even know that existed until they cleaned the mosque of it.
Wow.
It was someone that told me, says, you seen the Knights Templar crest? And I'm like, well, you're kidding. And the thing is, I was born here, and my family were born here, and we go back hundreds of years. Can you bury it on properties? That's a good question.
Carol, that's a good thing, because there was a famous person the other day, and they were interviewing him, and he says, I don't pay taxes on my property, and nobody can make me move. And they're like, why? He goes, because my grandpa's buried on my property. So once you bury someone on your property, you don't have to pay taxes, and you can't the government can't do a land grab. That was interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. So anybody that's watching this right now that owns large quantities,
but so I was in Slovakia, in Bratislava, Slovakia, and there was a castle on the way to the downtown where we would go and eat and hang out and everything. Mm-hmm. And I walked by this castle all the time, and it was just real freaky feeling when we walked by it. Let's see here. Oh yeah. And so I told the crew I was with, I'm like, dude, I don't like walking down that road, man. I get the EBGs when I walk down there. And so one of our crew members, he's a kind of a tour director. He studies all the places where we used to fly over. He goes, well, this is a very interesting one. And he told us about the story about the graveyard and the cemetery, and took us around back and showed us. And it's like, it was the one where at one point they started like gathering people up and like burning them and killing them. Like they accused them of being witches and witchcraft and everything.
Oh yeah.
So it was a very, very strange feeling when we all walked by that graveyard. But yeah, some of these graveyards, I put my hand up on the church here at this graveyard, and it's just like, it's the weirdest thing. I could feel vibrating. It was like, it freaked me out so bad. The frequency, there's a frequency in these buildings, in these graveyards, that still exist, and it's just overwhelming.
I was away. There's a place near me. It's called Lead Hills, and it's the highest village in Scotland. Lead Hills, it's the highest elevation in Scotland, and there's a little. It was famous for lead. Lead was mined there, mostly lead, right? But it was also famous for the gold, because the gold that comes for there, it makes all the royal family's jewellery, right? It's a different type of gold. It's more valuable. but there was a graveyard there, and there's stone walls and about it, and a big set of iron gates. You know, the ones that you would see in like a haunted mansion, and when you open it, goes ee. Standing outside it, felt absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Right next to a road, there's houses across the road. Felt absolutely fine. But see, when you walked across that, it was instant. It was like, it was just this. You felt heavy, as if you were in a spacesuit and were walking across the moon. It was weird.
Yeah, it's like something pressing on my lungs. I couldn't breathe. It's an energy and it's a frequency, and it's so apparent. And it's like, it's not like that over here, because over there, the history and just of all of the turmoil and all of the things that happened over there compared to over here is completely different. And you can just feel that in the air. I could feel it in my gut. But the energy is incredible when you walk into these places. There are some cemeteries we walked into and you get chills and everything. But those over in Europe, man, it's just like, it's like a heavy, you feel like it's high humidity. It feels like you can't breathe. It feels like a heavy pressure. And it's really, really, really bad.
See, I found out about the one next to me that there's actually a mass grave.
Okay, those are bad.
It's actually got a really sinister story attached to the church.
Is it from an outbreak or disease, or was it?
No, it's something even worse, right? It's something that you wouldn't think that somebody would do, something that you wouldn't think that you would do in a church. What happened is the Scottish and English, they were fine, right? And the Scottish knew that the English soldiers always on a Sunday went to pray in there.
Oh no!
And what did the English soldiers do before they went into a church? They left their weapons at the entrance to the church. So they all marched in. They all marched in.
Soft target.
And and the Scottish sneaked up, cut the throats of the two guards at the back, went in and murdered every single one of them. Took them out, dug a big hole, and threw them into it. Yep.
Yeah, those have a little energy to them.
Oh yeah, that's during the day the place feels absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's a beautiful place. You get in there and you sit down, it's fine. But see, at night I wouldn't go through there.
It's active at night. Hi, Christine.
Hey, Christine, good to see you. It's very, very, very active. Do you want me to bring up a couple of the pictures?
Yeah. Let's go through these.
Let's go through these, because it's let me see what's that here, because there's that many. See, I improvised here, guys. You know, I've got plenty. So this is the place itself. Here we go.
And what I found interesting about some of these is like you can't read the dates anymore. They're so old, you just cannot even read them anymore.
It's ridiculous how there's. I'll show you. There's actually this is a Commonwealth war graveyard too. So there's people in here that fought in the First World War. There's actually a stone here, and I'll show you. There we go. So that's what's his name? It was a private, and he was killed in 1918. So he was killed at the very end of World War I. Right. So it's a Commonwealth. But when I'll show you this, I mean, this place is stunning. I mean, yeah, that's its stained glass windows, and that's original stained glass. That's original, yeah. I mean, that there. Okay, this has got to sound stupid, but that's only dating back to maybe 16 something, 15, 16 something. That glass. So the glass probably it's maybe only for 400 or 500 years old, and I say that only. I mean, you know, but you've got the inside bit, and that was the Earl. His name was the Black Douglas, and he was like, imagine a knight of the realm, right? He went to fight in the Holy Wars, right? And he got killed over there. He was. You ever seen the film Kingdom of Jerusalem? You know, the one with the fight for Jerusalem. Well, he was killed over there, and they sent his heart back in a box with his sword. That was the people that captured it. Now, there is a coffin for you. Wow. Underneath it, there's a huge crypt, and it was really bad for flooding. right? And I mean, really bad for flooding. So they had to move all the bodies into modern caskets. So they moved all the stone coffins. So that's one of the stone coffins that they brought out. You can see the hole in the centre, so all the fluids would have drained out. It's quite intense, isn't it? I mean, and here is that's the courthouse. You can see the old parts of the building itself. That's the courthouse.
Wow.
So that's where there was another room across that you can see where the arch has been bricked up. That's where they would have marched through there and they would have been hung by the neck until they were dead. Now that will be the oldest part of the church there. That'll be probably 1185, 1195, something like that. So at one time that would have had a candle or something in it. No one really knows what that was for.
Right. That's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. It's you can see the old.
They put a lot of work into their cemeteries, a lot of attention. They respected the dead.
Oh, they did. And then it shows you how it's worn. That's extremely worn. And I think when I walk in that door, there, because I do the tarot cards, right, and because I'm also I can kind of see spirits and stuff like that. I need to watch, because when I walked through, I'm going to go back to the first picture. See when I walked in through, where are we here? See when I walked in through there, it feels totally different because I knew there was people hanging there.
Wow.
It just feels weird. But this is the gravestones. So there's one of the oldest. That you've got to remember that's probably sunk down about 6 feet. Wow. Because it's so old. Yeah. You've got the what do you call it? The timer. The timepiece there. I don't know what it actually means. I've got a.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's one of the oldest. That's one of the oldest ones.
Wow, that's crazy.
You know,
and that's somebody's that describes who's there.
Well, those graves there at the bottom. Don't see the little graves. They belong to children, mostly children that died in probably the 1500s for like diseases. I mean, let's face it, they didn't have like antibiotics or blood in their days. You know, that's skull and crossbones. But again, that's probably there's writing on it, but you probably need to dig down a good 2 or 3 foot to get to the writing.
Goodness.
And then that's I mean, you can see what I mean by American graveyards. That looks kind of similar, but there's my dog barking. She bars at Afrin. But anyway, there you go. There's an old one for you. That's, what is that? 15 something or other.
Something 53.
I think it's
1531.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. 1531.
1531.
It's mad. It truly is. It's
explain that. Is there a lot of them like this that have no, immediate markings?
They don't have markings. What I mean is they don't have like, it'll be a skull, it'll be crossbones.
Oh, it was more symbols than it was letters.
It was more symbols. A lot of it's in Latin. Because that's what the language was then.
Right.
Yeah, but that stone there had a skull in it, but that's all that's left. That's all that's left. That's 1400.
You would think it takes so long to prepare that. I just don't understand how they can. I mean, that didn't. You can't just do that little marker overnight. That took some time. But how they choose to just put an emblem instead of any writings and letters or numbers, that's
inside the chapel. Good to remember. That was the Lord at the time and his wife.
I saw a lot of churches in Romania that were like that.
Yeah, that's just like, I mean, the last time I had the service, I think the last burial was in 1984. The last burial was in 1984. in that graveyard. There's the best photo of all. That's what it's like inside. See
Yeah.
that? To get into the crypt below, you need to move that stone in the middle.
Right.
So it's highly hard to get in. That's the clock tower with the Knights Templar cross.
The Templar.
Yeah. You got to remember, I'm only 30 miles from Roslyn Chapel. And
that's
everybody
cool.
knows.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what Roslyn Chapel is. I mean, that's meant to be the rest place to the Holy Grail, and
right. It was.
So
we know it was at one time there, if not still around there.
Just bring up the chat a wee bit there because I couldn't see them. But there you go. I'll show you some more pictures after if you want. But it's old. It's old.
It is.
You've got to remember, I've got a castle next to me too. I've got a castle next to me, and just up the road from me, I had a fort next to me.
And how old do you think the castle is?
Well, the castle's only from, I think, 1500 or something, 1400, 1500.
Wow.
Only. But the Romans did make it up quite far here. A lot of people think they never came across Hadrian's Wall, but they did. They made it to like Edinburgh and stuff like that.
Yes.
The Romans.
Right.
And there was a lot of Roman forts near me, and there's actually one about half a mile up the road from me. There was a Roman fort. Can you drive the length of the UK in a few hours? What is that? You can drive in about 9 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
Because to drive from here to London, it takes about 6 hours.
Yeah, it takes a whole day in Texas. It takes like 9 hours to go a whole country there, or less.
It's small. It's small here compared to the Texas. I mean, Texas is, my God, Texas is Texas. Texas at one time was its own country. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
So how do they keep developing cemeteries and graveyards there? Do they are they more cremating them now, or are they still finding places to put them? Are there new ones?
Well, there's the old cemetery. The old cemetery. It's only like 100 years, 140 years up the road for me. Old, but that one is nearly full. It depends on the amount of money you're willing to spend. Long ago, maybe 20 years ago, it was maybe like £500-600 for like 3 levels. That's 3 caskets in the ground. But you can actually, the older cemeteries have like maybe up to 6 caskets in the ground, right? But because they're running out of room, it's about £1,500-1,600 now for like 3 caskets in the ground.
Wow.
And they're running out. A lot of people are going down the road of cremations because, right, if you go down the road of cremation, right, with like a limousine and all that, it's maybe going to cost you about £5,000, right? Whereas you go down the road of a burial, it's going to cost you about £8,000 or £9,000. You see where I'm going with this? You see the price difference here, and that's why people are going for cremations more.
So are they running out of land for cemeteries and graveyards, or do you see new ones popping up? I mean,
yes, no.
Okay, so there are new ones popping up.
There's some new ones popping up in new places, but they are running out of land.
Wow.
You've got to remember, the land has to be suitable for graveyards. Here in the UK, most graveyards or cemeteries are high up because we don't build them in floodplains. That's one of the biggest problems. But what's wrong now is you've got to remember now there's the UK's population's getting booming, right? And they're building houses and they're doing this and they're doing that. And they're running out of room. And it's the same in London. It's the same in London. They're running out of room. And that's why they're going to have to reuse the graves again. It's sad, but I'm getting cremated. I've decided I've actually paid for my funeral. I know I'm only like 43, but I've actually paid for it. Prepaid it. So there you go. If I croak at night now, you're all invited. Wow.
I mean, I just see in America, you just don't think about that sort of thing here. I mean, you just, it's amazing. When I started doing research on all these cemeteries and graveyards, and the ones I've been to Romania and Sophie, Budapest and Hungary
Yeah.
and Slovakia and
Yeah.
Austria and it's like, oh my gosh, I wish people here had a sense of the difference. I wish they could appreciate or just experience what it's like to
I
go
wish
into
I
one of
saw.
those old graveyards. Yeah,
Ah, there you go. I'll see you there. I'll meet you in the morgue. But it's modern times now. I do think cremation is a better way to go, because if you
yeah,
think about it, it's easier. It's easier on the
oh yeah,
family. I mean, I've got some of my family's cremated, and the only thing with cremation is there's no many places you can go and put flowers down,
right.
right? Whereas if you've got a grave, you can go and put flowers down. But does that really matter? Because we all know when you die, you go somewhere else. Well, the people that believe in this
Right.
know when you die. No, everybody believes that.
There's
But
no, yeah.
you see, yeah.
So I've got two boys that have passed away in the last,
Oh,
let's see, 3 and 10 years, and my kids wear them in a little thing around their neck. So they're with us all the
yes,
time, and they sit here and
yes,
at the house with us, and it's so much more personable than if you
yeah.
put them out in a hole. And especially now, because my son and my grandparents are buried in Arizona, I don't see those anymore. So I think cremation will become more and more popular. It's going to have to in Europe.
My mother passed away 7.5 months ago, but she was cremated. But
Right.
I put some of her ashes at a beautiful spot where there's a seat, and I've actually talked to the estate and my friend that looks after it, and I says, listen, is it okay if I get a plaque put on this chair? And he says, no problem, just get me the plaque and I'll put that plaque on that chair from you, and it's somewhere where I can go and sit. It's maybe better that way, but it is coming to a point where we have to start. I mean, have you seen the new ways? It's not cremation, but it's not burial. Have you seen the new things you can get done? I think it's like a liquid cremation. Have you heard about that? Have you heard?
Yeah.
I mean, that's they put you in this big tank. I don't know what they do to you, but all it's left out is your bones. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Growing up, we thought we were kind of taught that was like desecration, but
Yeah.
we have to remember our bodies are vessels.
Yes.
And ashes to ashes, dust to dust. They're no longer, have any significance on whether they're cremated or buried anymore. But back in the day, it was like that was a bad thing to do. Well, they taught us that was bad to be cremated, but I've completely changed my mind since then.
Oh, I've totally changed my mind. I've met some interesting people over the years that did the old podcasting. I mean, I met Bishop Brian. Everybody knows Bishop Brian, for Ghost Adventures. I met him and I had a conversation with him. He says, and he went on and he gave me this spiel: if you don't get buried, you're not going to be resurrected, because he believes that, right?
Right.
And
No, that's still a very popular belief.
Yeah. I says to him, so if you're cremated, you're not going to get resurrected. Then we had this. It was after the show. We had this philosophical conversation. It must have lasted about an hour and a half.
Wow.
And I mean, it's whatever you believe in. It doesn't matter what you believe in. You get what you want. Right? If you want to be launched into space in a space capsule, I mean, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But if you've got to remember now that land is running out because they're building more and more houses, right?
Right.
The only thing I don't agree with is where they take land that was a cemetery or was a graveyard and then build on it.
And then dig them up and remove it and replace it to move it for, I don't like that. That to me, that's desecrating. I think. I don't think you disturb it. I don't think you disturb it. No, I think once you're laid to rest, it should stay there, even though there's nothing there. I understand that, but it just feels like that should be left alone. It should be off limits.
I know some place in Scotland. I'm not going to name what it is, but I know where the council actually built flats in top of an old graveyard.
Yeah.
And then they started having problems.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah, and the houses had problems. It was actually a council estate. They built, it was an old graveyard from like the 1500s. There wasn't that many in it. There was maybe 100 people buried in it at one point.
Yeah.
They said they removed everybody, but then it came out that they didn't. They just removed some of the stones.
The stones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, wait, no, I don't know what's going on here, but my cup came off its table and floated across the
See, that's a spiritual, like, again, that's a spiritual energy frequency thing. So even though your soul's not in your body, that's a whole different part of it. That's spiritual. It has nothing to do with physical.
Yeah. Well, I'll show some of the other pictures here. I think I showed them all. Did I show them all? I can't remember. Oh no, I've got these ones here. That's right. I'm forgetting. What's this one?
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. That's beautiful, that, isn't it? That was one of the oldest graveyards I've been to.
So do you think there's 3 people buried there?
Yes, probably children, because of the skulls.
Yeah.
Maybe more. Because
so when it's a child, they put a skull up. When it's an adult, they put up the bones.
I actually don't know. It's a lot of it's in Latin because Alan's always with me and I get him to like speak it out, and sometimes it's like luminous. So like you can't read it because it's in Latin and I don't speak Latin.
Right.
What's this one here? Is this one? That's a bit of the modern part that was.
Yeah, you can tell.
To the old,
that's more like cemetery here.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I just can't believe they don't take care of the tombstones. They don't. We've got a cemetery over here. It's got hundreds of stones, and they're all laying on the ground and
I know
moved. And I don't get that, man. I just don't get it.
It's just time takes its toll. There was a place near me. It's not near me. It's about 150 miles from me. It's called Oban. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, but they've got a chapel there. And this is where a lot of the Knights Templars were buried. This is something to show you here. It's like, that's the people that was buried at this location. Wow. And when they buried them, they put actually, I don't know how they did this, guys, in the chat, but they must have spent ages chiseling this out.
Oh my, yes. Look at the.
I mean, that's the top of the graves, yeah. Yeah, I mean, imagine that. I mean, that's just. You imagine the time that's when if you made one mistake, you're going to have to start all over again.
Or if it breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost Egyptian.
That is. Yeah. That church that I was at, the church was built in 1300s, but the burial ground for them, I think, was dated well over 1,000 years. Over 1,000 years.
See, that's crazy.
That is. It's mad. But there's loads of wee places like that all over Europe. You know?
Yes.
What's that?
I was reading that.
Yes, I'm just getting it. Listen, guys, could you on Ghost Squad Scotland? I've posted the link at the very top of the page. You'll see it there. It's actually pinned it. It's out there. Could you please give them a subscribe, guys? Let's get them to 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
But it's interesting. I mean, just think about it in this sense. In 600 or 700 years' time in America, people are like, oh, this is an old graveyard.
Right. It's nuts. And I didn't realize that. And most Americans don't realize that until I went over into Europe and started seeing the history. It changed my life, man. It just changed everything about it. I came home and it's like I can't even talk to my kids the same way. You can't associate with people that don't understand what it's like over there. We're not spoiled. We're naive. We're just innocent. I wouldn't say uneducated, but there's no awareness of it. There's no. And it's shocking. It's shocking. I wish I could take everybody I know that from my family over there for a day and show them the history and show them the difference. And it's just amazing. I can't imagine living over there. Can't imagine it.
You enjoy it, need to come over a holiday to Scotland.
Oh, I'd love to. Allison just told me she wants to come, so we're going to have to make that happen.
I want to go to, what do you call it? What's his name's castle? Vlad the Impaler's castle. I want to go there.
What, Dracula?
Hike up the steps. Aye, Dracula's castle.
Oh, yeah.
Up the steps there, Old Vlad the Impaler.
Well, you know what? When we come visit, that will be one of our goals, is to return that brick I have from that castle. So maybe we can make that
a brave man.
Oh, yeah. No, I have to. I'm not scared at all now.
I'm surprised Pete, Mike the Naked Bigfoot's son, is not wanting that brick for you.
Yeah. No, I've got to take it back. I can't send it back. I can't. Yeah, road trip, Joey. No kidding, man. And a boat trip. I wouldn't mind doing a plane trip over to Europe and then doing the Danube, and just going up and down the Danube River.
So you've been to a lot more locations I've ever been. I've never left really. I've been to England and Ireland.
I've been to 19 different countries, and I can't tell you how many places in Europe. I've lost track. My passport I had to add extra 44 pages in my passport because I ran out of all my room for all of them. So yeah, I've been all over that place, and I just absolutely love it. And I wish I could take everybody I know over there and show them what I've
I'm waiting for my new passport to come in. I had to apply for a passport, so my first ever passport. I've never been on an airplane, so I had to apply for a passport. So I have to go for a meeting now. You have to go for a meeting to make sure you're okay now. I don't know if
you're not crazy.
No, you're not crazy.
Yeah, they don't give passports. You have to pass the psychological test to get a passport over there.
Yeah. I'll walk in with my own parachute on or something like that. I'm ready.
So my ancestors are from Ireland, and the Bradfords and the Hawkins. I think it's Irish and Scottish. I can't remember, but a lot of people have said you got to go back and visit, where your ancestors came from, and that's one thing I've always wanted to go back to. I'll go to Ireland or Scotland.
You need to come to Scotland. Need to come to Scotland because, or even go to like Scotland, go to Ireland. Like Lawrence says in the chat, he's from the Republic of Ireland. It's a beautiful country, Ireland. I mean, You think Scotland's nice with its scenery and its castles. Ireland is one of the most beautifulest places for castles.
The only thing I have to compare that to is like the Netherlands. And I don't know how much it is the same.
What's that? Or, I'm from the Peterson.
Or Belgium.
I'm a McDonald.
Oh, wow. Patterson Clan. See, that's awesome that you can go back and find that.
You have to come, Tim. You have to get the kilt on, man. Stand at the castle. Get your photo took.
I'm ready, man. I'm calling road trip. I think Papa's on board with me.
Should do a special event and invite some of the lucky subscribers to come along on the first tour.
Yeah, let's do a GoFundMe and just let's all go.
Aye,
that's a good idea. And we'll document the whole thing, make a documentary out of it.
The return of the brick.
The return of the brick. Back to Dracula's castle. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, I took a brick from Dracula's castle over in Romania, and I had a run of bad luck after I brought it home, and this is like 2007. Since then, we've stopped the bad luck from happening, but the brick needs to go back. And so we always talk about doing a return to Dracula's castle to put that brick back. But that's what that's all about. But that's a whole nother show.
Don't you worry, when you fly from Scotland back to Dracula's castle and we're all taking a separate aircraft.
I know. We'll all take different airplanes. Nobody wants to be on the same plane as me. I understand that. And I completely agree with you. I'd be a little freakish too. That's no offense. Yeah. take it. You have to get your own transportation getting there. You don't want to be on the airplane I'm on, but
Yeah.
I've done it once. I'll do it again.
It's quite interesting because it's quite interesting you pointed that out to me, that everybody thinks that castle was like, again, there's two different Dracula's castles, and everybody thinks that there's only one Dracula's castle, but in actual fact there's two.
Right.
And
there's
I
actually
pointed that to somebody that
yeah, there's actually like 4, but that's the one he died in.
Really?
That was his.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's where he had his last stand, and he was decapitated.
Where is he buried? Talking about graves.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. They don't.
Ah.
They took his head for proof, and nobody knows what they did with the body. And that's the locals there will say his body was never found, but they took his head as a souvenir to show everyone. But nobody really knows what happened to his head or his body. But his wife jumped off the back wall down to a river bottom. She committed suicide. She jumped when they were being attacked. She committed suicide. So, but no, nobody knows where his. Yeah, I think they could have burned it. But yeah, there's no written history of what happened to his body. Just the head. They took the head as a souvenir just to show everybody he was gone. But I mean, I think I'm going with the locals. You know, I don't believe everything I read anymore about Dracula or Vlad, because there's so much, Hollywood and fairy tale and superstition. And so I believe the locals. I'm going with the stories the locals tell.
It's the movie industry, the blow off it out of proportion, they add all the stuff. Let's just take about the Warrens, for instance. You look at the Enfield poltergeist, and they turned that into some mad, crazy crazy nun chasing you up and down the stairs. I mean, that didn't happen. Everybody thinks that happens, but it didn't happen. The movies aren't real. Some things that the movies do portray as quite real, but very, very few. Like documentaries like Napoleon, or for instance, like that stuff happened. That's what happened. But it's the same with the Titanic. How we were talking about the Titanic and that before. Come on, that's
Yeah, Dracula was never a bat. He never like had fangs and sucked people's blood out of their neck. None of that ever happened. No. But it's Hollywood. But it's interesting. But someone asked where his head was. No, his head disappeared. They toured it through that area and put it on show. They go to different towns and show his head to prove that he was dead, because the people were so afraid, and they couldn't relax until they had proof that he was dead. So they took it around and showed all of the communities and all the cities around that this is him. There's no more need to worry, because it set off a panic, man.
I'm telling you,
it's to this day it's still a big thing.
I bet there's a tourist out there somewhere thinking, I bought Dracula's head. Just paid a lot of money for Dracula's head, and they've got it sitting in their living room. All their friends come in and say, hey,
and the helmet he wore, that could be the helmet right over there on the corner table. Who knows?
Drink their beer.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh God!
But most of his
joy, is it? You have to get that off. Yeah, stosh it away somewhere. Isn't it you, Tim? You haven't bought that. You tell me you didn't buy it.
Yeah. It's more of an acquired object, but no, we don't know what's sitting around. We get stuff passed down from our ancestors to their, over and over and over. You don't know what some of these antique stores. You don't know what these things are, where they came from. It's scary to think about it. We've investigated a lot of antique stores, and man, the energy and the spirits and the it's so active. It's unbelievable. And you just don't know where it's coming from, because there's so many objects. We did a show on haunted objects and how they retain their memory and their energy and everything. And it's like antique stores are really, really crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the same way this, I'm sorry.
No, you go, sorry.
That's the same way this brick is. It's no longer affecting me, but it does have that energy, and I got to get it back.
That's something, that's something that I do need to tell people about the paranormal. See if you're in a graveyard, see if you're in a cemetery and you're walking past gravestones and you see somebody's put like nice shiny stones down and think to yourself, oh, that would look lovely in my house. Don't take it. Do not
Don't
ever
take it.
take anything from a graveyard or a cemetery. It doesn't matter if it's solid gold.
No.
Do not take it. It's
Even
the
if it's a
worst thing.
piece of 8 gold coin laying there, you don't touch it. Don't touch it. You can bring anything, but do not take anything away. I've seen 6-packs of Budweiser sitting out on tombstones, and they leave it. nobody's taking it away. You just don't take anything from a cemetery. Yeah,
It'll be quite interesting when you do take. Yeah, when you take that brick back, what customs will say, "What's this strange object?"
They never looked at it when I brought it over.
Well,
I mean,
look at it when they come back.
I just put it in my bag. It was a brick. I got it at a park. You know, there's no markings. There's no way to. Yeah.
I take it you've got it in a box, like maybe with salt on it or something like that. Maybe sealing it up.
I do now.
Energy, can it? Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
But no, I mean, it's not illegal to take a rock or a stone or anything into countries. It's not identifiable. So
yeah, it's like see when you go to graveyards, guys. I've known people that have took things for graveyards and they've had nothing but problems. And I've suggested to them, take that back, and see when they've took it back, stops. Everything stops. Now it might be unlucky. The person that's game it might be pissed off enough that you stay away for a wee while, but eventually they will. Don't ever take anything for graves, because there's a graveyard, the cemetery next to me. There was a young kid that was killed, ran over by a car, and they put loads of toys, the little dinky toys,
right,
sitting out. And don't ever take anything from it. Doesn't matter how shiny, how good looking it is. Just don't do it, because you will regret it. You will regret it.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. There are stories about, remember when the Berlin, when the wall, the Berlin Wall.
The Berlin Wall, yeah.
Not the Berlin, tear down this wall, and they took that wall down. Pieces of those bricks went all over the world as souvenirs.
Oh yeah.
They flew them, and some of them are still today worth money. I mean, just the relics and their souvenirs. But those things right there have ended up in every country all over the world.
I know someone that's got artifacts from the Berlin bunker.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. But I said to him, I said, I wouldn't. How did you get that? And he said, my grandfather was in the British Army, and he was there at the time. And he went and looked around about it. It was all flooded, and there was stuff floating about. And he taken something, brought it back, and it said he was been in the family. It's just something stupid, like maybe a plate or maybe a fork or something like that. But still, I wouldn't touch something like no way. What they did, kind of the evilness that was with the Nazis and stuff like that. The stuff that they actually got up to. Can you imagine the energy that's on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so she asked a good question. What do they do with all the stuff that people leave? Now, in U.S. graveyards over here, especially where my son and my grandparents are buried, we'll take things out there. Like, if you go out there today, you'll still find like a little bracelet and a cross and some things that people have left there. They don't bother that stuff. They will take out flowers and dead flowers and everything. They ask you not to leave balloons, and if you do put up balloons, they do take, after they're gone, they remove those things. But the sentimental, the physical objects, like the bracelets and beads and everything, they don't remove. They leave them there.
There's lawns there. Amazing Time neighbor has a chunk of that wall. That's crazy.
Yeah,
the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, I've held a piece in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
But again, yeah.
The energy.
A lot of the pieces of that wall are all over the world. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's look. There's always going to be somebody that takes something, and all I can say this: if you ever know anybody that takes anything from a graveyard or a cemetery, it doesn't matter. It's where the person's buried or whatever. Please try and tell them to take it home, because the person who you've took that will probably be annoyed.
Well, I'll tell you this much. If you do take something, you'll only do it once.
Yeah.
I guarantee you'll
I'm
only do
very
it once.
careful. I'm very careful now when I go to places.
You'll never do it again.
I've seen people that I know picking things up and I'm like, don't take stuff, don't do it. And they don't listen to you, they take it, and then they get problems.
It's not
Take
funny.
it back yourself. Yeah, take it back yourself. That's what I've said to a lot of them.
And you got to return
it
it. You
yourself.
can't just throw it away or give it away or bury it. You got to return it. That's the most important thing I've learned about this brick is it has to go back. I already know that for a fact. Unfortunately.
That's right, Collins, David. I've heard that at the veteran. That's something I was actually going to bring up to you. I forgot about it because we were talking about graveyards and stuff, but this is actually a graveyard. I'm very impressed. Is it Washington, where all the soldiers are buried?
Arlington.
Arlington, yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how many people are in there? I mean, it's World War I, World War II.
I forget. They just said it the other day when they were hanging the wreath of the unknown soldier, and they said how many markers are out there. I forget the number. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All in a perfect line, all just gorgeous. It's the most well-taken cemetery in the world, I think.
It's a sea of crosses, yeah.
Yes. Straight in a line, perfect. It's amazing. I've been there. It's really, really cool. It's like it's hard to breathe. It takes your breath away. Not in a bad way, in a good way.
I know people that have been there because they worked in the British military, but they had friends that were American that were killed, and they went there, and they said it was quite intense.
It is.
It was intense. Yeah.
So it's somber. It's sacred. It's somber. There is some good feeling there. I mean, there's comfort. There's feelings of comfort, which I was kind of confused that I felt like, I was okay with it. I didn't feel like sad, not too sad, but I felt comfort, and that I didn't expect to feel that at all.
Well, a lot of those men gave their lives for our freedoms we have today.
I'm sorry?
They died for us. A lot of those men that died gave their freedom. They gave their lives for our freedom we've got today. Look, if they hadn't sacrificed themselves or whatever, we could be speaking German right now, or we could be speaking Japanese.
Yeah, French, German, anything, yeah.
Yeah.
Slovakian.
It's somber. It is somber because I've got a friend that goes to the is it VE Day in Europe, and it goes to the Normandy, where all the graves are, all the American soldiers and the British soldiers, but mostly it was American soldiers. A lot of them did die, and it's quite interesting. He was telling us he went to see his great grandfather, and you take some sand and you rub it on the stone for the name. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
With the ran off the. Well, a lot of the soldiers, a lot of the Marines or whatever, the American Marines, when they come off the landing crafts, a lot of them were killed instantly. So there's a big graveyard in France, and it's next to the Normandy beach where all the soldiers run up and get killed. Well, a lot of them are buried there, and the stones are all white marble, and the names are all carved in, and it's all white marble. So what the soldiers do, the ex-soldiers, they get some like sand, and they rub it.
So that makes it safe, so it's visible.
So it's visible. And I actually know people that have had their grandfathers and everything that were killed on the beaches in Normandy. And some are American that I know, some are British that I know. Some of them were British paratroopers that went into, see, before the Americans come in to do their business, the British paratroopers behind enemy lines and cut all the communications, and blew up bridges. Yeah. And some of them were killed. And some of them are buried there.
Yeah.
But then obviously the Americans lost a lot that day. A lot.
Yeah.
And I hope it never happens again. What's that? Suds Paranormal? We allows sacrifice. Yep. Exactly.
Yes, we do.
We own our lives to our sacrifices. Exactly. It's been a really good night tonight. It's been a really good.
Yeah, man.
podcast.
What a good show. And
It has been,
and
it
so
really has been.
so Joey is still gonna miss out next week. So we'll do a show next week and have a great
Yes.
topic. If that's on,
yes.
if we're still on for that, we'll tease it. I think we're gonna do the Bermuda Triangle. If
Yes,
anybody
and
knows
we're
anything
looking-
about that.
And we're looking
Stay
for
tuned for
some
that
lucky
show.
person in the chat to go out in a wee rowing boat.
Yeah. But anyone, you guys remember to like, share, subscribe, hit your alert button. And Chris, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest host. It's been a great
welcome,
show.
man.
And
It's
we
very
miss
welcome, man.
Joey, and we hope to have him back soon.
We did.
And
It
I'm
is.
sorry.
I hope it comes back soon. Oh no, you go. I was just looking.
Anyway,
for the outro there.
So anyway, thank you guys. We appreciate all the comments, and we'll go back and go through them and look at them on. If you have any ideas for shows, feel free to let us know. And once again, Chris, thank you so much. And everyone go check
You're
out
very
Chris's
welcome.
channel.
Well, guys, all my subscribers that are watching this now, not everybody that watches this, please go and subscribe to them. The link is at the top of the page that you're in right now. You can find the link to the chat. It's pinned at the very top. It's the yellow banner. Click on that and you will send you straight over to out there. Give them a subscribe. Let's get them to 1,000 subscribers for Christmas. Huh? What do you think, guys?
That'd be great.
Let's get them there because I think they deserve it because their shows are absolutely awesome. And the time that Joey and Tim put in is fantastic and does amazing thumbnails too. I'm very impressed with his thumbnail work. Very impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, we've enjoyed it. We've had a good time, and meeting you and joining the network was just a privilege and an honor, and we're happy to be here. And but thank everyone, and we're going to end it for this week. So do all the things we told you to, and you guys have a great time, and we'll see Chris next week. Until then, I'm Uncle Tim, and that's Chris, and this is Out There.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Hey, if you really enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up because that really helps the channel. And then share it.
Oh, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe.
Hey, hit that alert bell so you'll know when we post a new episode.
Or if we go live, you don't want to miss that.
Hey, let us know in the comments section what topics you'd like us to cover in the future.
And always, if you have a story you'd like to share, please let us know.
Until next time,
that's Papa Joy.
and that's Uncle Tim.
Beyond the realm of the known lies the mysteries of out there, out there, out there, out there.